Before a man gives you his heart, he'll test your spirit, not to hurt you, but to protect himself. It could be something small, a disagreement, a moment of silence, or a boundary quietly pushed. I'm Vernon, and today I'm going to show you the 3 emotional tests men use to decide whether they can truly love again after 60. Because men don't fall in love by accident, not at this age. Every move is shaped by trust, fear, and the kind of heartbreak that takes years to recover from. And if you're a woman starting over, after divorce, after loss, or after years of emotional disconnect, chances are you've already seen these tests without realizing it. Before we dive in, go ahead and hit like and subscribe, not just to follow this video, but to make sure you never miss the kind of insight that could change how you see love for good. Now, let's take a closer look at the first of these quiet tests, one that often shows up in the smallest, most ordinary moments, yet says everything about whether real connection is possible.
1. He'll disagree with you to see how you handle difference. This is the first test many men present, often without even realizing it. The disagreement test. It's not about being right or wrong about books or politics or whether the coffee is too strong. It's about emotional flexibility. Can you hold your ground without becoming defensive? Can you disagree without making me the enemy? Can you stay curious about my perspective while maintaining your own? When a man disagrees with you about something small, he's often asking a deeper question. Can I be real with you? Can I show you the parts of my thinking that don't align with yours? Will you make space for my authentic self, even when it's different from what you expected? So, if he pokes your opinions, it's not always an attack. It might be his way of asking, "Can I be real with you?" There was a woman I met at a coffee shop 3 years ago. Her name was Sylvia, a retired teacher with gentle eyes and a laugh that made you want to stay just a little longer. Over the course of a few weeks, we kept talking, and the more we spoke, the more I found myself genuinely drawn to her wisdom, her kindness, and the unique way she saw the world. Then came a moment, one I now recognize as completely instinctive, something I did without thinking, but that said more than I realized at the time.
She mentioned loving a particular author, someone I'd never cared for. Instead of simply nodding or changing the subject, I found myself disagreeing. Not harshly, but clearly. I told her I thought the author was overrated, that his philosophy felt shallow to me. And then I watched. I watched how she handled it. Sylvia did something beautiful that day. She tilted her head slightly, smiled, and said, "Tell me more about that. What is it about his work that doesn't resonate with you?" She didn't agree with me to avoid conflict. She didn't dismiss my opinion to protect hers. She created space for both of our truths to exist. The measure of love is not agreement. It's how gently we handle disagreement. Those words from philosopher Alain de Botton have stayed with me because they capture something essential about mature love. At 60 and beyond, we're not looking for someone who mirrors us perfectly. We're looking for someone who can dance with difference. Have you ever experienced a moment like that, where a simple disagreement revealed something deeper? Drop it in the comments. Let's see how often this really happens. He's challenged your views. He's crossed a small line to see if you'll hold it. But there's another kind of test, and it's not about power or opinion or even words. Take a second. What do you think it is?
2. He'll cross a small boundary to see if you stand firm. There's something many women don't understand about how men test love. We often test limits, not just emotions. This isn't about disrespect, it's about emotional self-respect. A man who's considering giving his heart wants to know, will you protect your own peace? Because if you won't defend your own boundaries, how can he trust you to create a safe space for both of you? I think about a time years ago when I was getting to know a woman named Claire. She was remarkable, intelligent, accomplished, with a warmth that drew people to her. But I noticed something troubling. In our conversations, she would agree to things that clearly made her uncomfortable. When I suggested a restaurant she didn't like, she'd say yes anyway. No matter how inconvenient the moment, she made herself available. One evening, I did something I'm not proud of, but it taught me something important. I suggested we meet at a time I knew didn't work for her schedule. I wasn't trying to be difficult. I was trying to understand something about her character. Would she speak up for herself? Would she protect her own needs? She said yes again. And in that moment, I realized something that changed how I saw her. If she couldn't say no to me about small things, how could I trust her to say no to bigger things? How could I trust her to tell me when I was wrong, when I was hurting her, when I needed to change?
This boundary test isn't about control, it's about partnership. A man who's ready for real love doesn't want a woman who will bend herself into impossible shapes to keep him happy. He wants a woman who knows her own mind, who can hold her ground with grace, who understands that love isn't about elimination of self, it's about the conscious choice to share yourself with someone worthy. When a man crosses a small boundary, he's asking, will you protect your peace? Will you teach me how to treat you? Will you show me that you value yourself enough to expect me to value you too? A person who doesn't defend their peace will never protect yours. I've learned this through decades of watching relationships. The woman who can't say no to the wrong things will struggle to say yes to the right ones. If you know a woman who keeps bending her standards for love, share this with her. Remind her, the right man won't love her less for saying no. He'll love her more for knowing how. He's tested your strength through disagreement, your boundaries through small transgressions, and now, without saying a word, he'll test your stillness. 3. He'll go quiet to see if you chase him or hold still. A man reveals his fear of intimacy not in silence, but in how long he waits to see if you'll fill the silence first. I don't know who first said those words, but they capture something profound about how men handle emotional vulnerability. I witnessed this test play out beautifully with a couple I knew through my church. Helen was a widow in her mid-60s, and Robert was a divorced man about the same age. They'd been growing closer over months, dinners, long walks, conversations that stretched into the evening. But then Robert began to pull back, not dramatically, not cruelly, but noticeably. His calls became less frequent,
His texts grew shorter. He seemed to create distance just as they were getting closer. Most women would have panicked. They would have called more, texted more, tried to bridge the gap with their energy. But Helen did something extraordinary. She held still. She didn't chase him. She didn't demand explanations. She simply continued living her life, tending her garden, visiting friends, reading her books. She held her center. After 2 weeks of this quiet dance, Robert showed up at her door. He later told me he'd been testing something, though not consciously. He'd been afraid of getting hurt again, afraid of disappointment, afraid of giving his heart to someone who might not be ready for the weight of it. His pulling back wasn't about pushing her away. It was about seeing if she was emotionally independent enough to let him have his fear without making it her emergency. This is perhaps the most misunderstood test of all. When a man goes quiet, many women interpret it as rejection, but often it's the opposite.
And if you've ever found yourself confused by a man pulling back or going cold, I covered the other side of that dynamic in a video called 4 Behaviors That Ruin Your Value in a Man's Eyes. Don't be her. You'll find the link in the description. It's his way of asking, can you hold your center when I pull back? Can you love me without needing me? Can you stand still in uncertainty? Men often pull back not to disappear, but to test emotional independence. We've learned, sometimes through painful experience, that desperation kills love. We need to know that you choose us from strength, not from need. We need to know that your happiness doesn't depend entirely on our presence. Helen's stillness spoke louder than any words could have. It said, I'm here if you want to be here. I'm not going anywhere, but I'm not chasing you either. I trust you to figure out what you want, and I trust myself to be worthy of what you decide. Robert didn't just come back, he came back changed. He came back ready. He came back knowing that Helen was someone who could hold space for his humanity, including his fears. Have you ever noticed a man do this, or done it yourself? Drop a comment below. I'd love to know what stillness taught you. Because in the end, all these tests point to one thing. Let's wrap it up. These 3 tests, the disagreement, the boundary, and the silence, are really 3 questions every man asks with his behavior before he allows himself to fall in love. Can I be real with you? Will you protect your peace? Can you stand still when I pull away? These aren't questions he asks with words. They're questions he asks with his actions, his choices, his small moments of testing the emotional waters between you. And what I want you to understand is that if you failed these tests in the past, it's not a flaw. It's just experience. Every reaction you've had, the chasing, the bending, the moments you wish you'd held your ground, none of those were failures. They were lessons. They were your heart learning how to love more wisely. At 60 and beyond, we have the gift of experience. We know what works and what doesn't. We know that love isn't about proving ourselves. It's about choosing wisely. We know that the right person won't need us to pass their tests. They'll pass ours with patience, presence, and peace. The man worth your heart walks towards you, respects your boundaries,
and values your voice. Not because you pass his tests, but because you stay true to yourself. Whether it's a question that's been on your mind or a lesson you've learned the hard way, feel free to share it in the comments. There's wisdom in experience, and yours might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Like and subscribe if you believe love after 60 isn't about proving yourself. It's about choosing wisely. Because the most beautiful love stories aren't written by those who pass every test. They're written by those who know their own worth and choose partners who see it too. And I'm Vernon. Thanks for watching my video.